I'm going to try to keep this one Genesis 30. I'm going to try not to go too long on this, but there's so much here that I want to share with my kids, my grandkids, my brothers and sisters who consider me a teacher around the world. I want to say that this is really pivotal in your understanding of not only the kingdom of God or the principles of God, but it covers so much. In particular, what I want to point out here, which are the relationships within the kingdom. And what I want to do is dispel or challenge or kind of show you that this isn't about perfection, becoming perfect, you being perfect, I being perfect, anyone around you being perfect. These are the forefathers and foremothers, if you will, of our faith, real time, at work, dealing with their personal relationships, having attitudes, not treating each other nicely at all in some cases. This isn't about you improving your walk so that God can give you something. This is about truly walking out the principles and dealing with the attitudes of the people around you who also love God. This isn't about unsaved people, so to speak, as we would say in American terminology today in English. This is it. This is how family works. This is how your relationships work. This is the stuff that faith and hope and unity, love, respect is all made of. You're going to see in Genesis 30 some generational curses being dealt with by our forefathers. If you've been following along in the book of Genesis, you will recognize them. And I hope you have. Maybe you haven't listened to all 78 videos prior to this. Although I hope you do. Because then you'll be following along with what's being repeated over and over and over again. And I do mean over and over. The same stuff Adam dealt with, the same stuff Moses dealt with, same stuff Abraham dealt with, same stuff Isaac, and now we're into Jacob's family, part of the family. Same stuff. Dealing with the same types of attitudes from the beginning of written history. And again, this isn't about money, because all these people are rich. And again, I point that out because a lot of you read the Bible with the intent on getting rich, which is fine. I get it. We all need money. But what we want to do is learn the right actions or reactions of life. How do we handle things? Jacob is a strong man, a good man, smart man, navigating some challenging relationships, not outside of his family, within his family. Laban, his wife Rachel, his wife Leah, his handmaidens, which is really another sister. Leah and Rachel being sisters, and Bilhah, Bilhah, I believe, and we'll find out here soon. They're all sisters, coming from the same family, right? From Rebecca's family, all of the same bloodline. And they're having a time of it. Leah and Rachel have their own little dynamic, all while Jacob is fighting for his future, to do what God has called him to do. But he has an attitude as well. In judging which wife he loves the most, although the wives and their handmaidens are having his children, he has preference. Rachel dealing with her insecurities, Leah dealing with her insecurities, all while having the 12 tribes, the 12 children, the 12 male children. That we in the New Testament spend a lot of time some time talking about the 12 tribes of Jacob, who became Israel. There's a lot going on in navigating your relationships, in your own life. In your own life. But in doing so, it's very important that you take Jacob's point of view. I believe this is the healthiest point of view in navigating all these things that you have to deal with. He's not dealing with any enemies. He's dealing with family in this particular part of the story. He's worked 14 years for a family member who doesn't want him to leave. Although he made him a promise, Laban made Jacob a promise that if you do 7 years, I got you. Then he says, well, not quite. You need to put in another 7 years and then I got you. And now he's about to say, well, I already know God is blessing me because of you. Just flat out told him, I'll pay you more. Just tell me what you want. And Jacob's like, come on, man. This ain't cool, how you doing me. How many of us are navigating relationships within our own sphere or our own worlds, where we are saying, okay, I'm going to do this, but once I prove myself, help a brother out. Or we're navigating relationships where people are sabotaging you, or you feel like you're being sabotaged. It happens. This is real life. How Jacob is handling this, I want you to see it so that you understand that this is all within the kingdom of God. And it should get rid of judgment towards other brothers and sisters. Some of us just need to release people. Everyone. Just let them go. I was speaking yesterday to someone who was kind of telling me about myself from his perspective. And a lot of what he told me, I kind of thought was more his issue than mine. Because I hold nothing against anyone. He has the thought that I'm being taken advantage of because I don't hold anything against anyone. I thought about this. And what I think is the challenge with a lot of us is we're so hell-bent on the past that we're still making decisions based upon our past. And usually attached to your past is how someone else treated you. Instead of making decisions based upon the vision that God is giving you. In this conversation, we talked about something that was glossed over, which is timing. In God's time, all things are fulfilled. And if you don't understand what I mean now, I believe you will, to my kids, my grandkids, my brothers and sisters around the world who consider me a teacher. That you have to navigate things, your relationships, without judgment, and still fight for, after you've fulfilled your promises, you've lived a life of good character, integrity, and morality, and allow God to fight your battles as you're moving your life forward. These are the principles that I want to point out here. Anyway, Genesis chapter 30. Looking at it from the perspective of how do you navigate your relationships? How do you work your relationships? I want you to see this. In Genesis 30 verse 1, it says, "And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die." Now, I touched on this in video 78. And I wanted to start here because I wanted you to see what Jacob was dealing with. Now, it's easy to see this from a lot of perspectives or from different points of view. You can see it from Rachel's point of view, but what I want to point out is Jacob's point of view and how he answered these things. In verse 2, "And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said," this is a righteous man, a good man, "and he said, I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb?" So answering his wife, the one that he loved, he answered in anger and said, "I'm not God. I'm not the one who's withholding anything from you." He answered her. Now, I believe Jacob still had a part to play because of what God said, and is documented in Genesis chapter 29, when he said he loved Rachel over Leah, and God chose to open up the womb of Leah and close the womb of Rachel. Now I want to say this. Things are not necessarily happening because of your actions or inactions. It's God's, and I just pointed this out, God's timing. When it comes to something good happening in your life, it's very, I'm not one who thinks at all, quite frankly, that God is saying no to you. I think God is saying, oftentimes, allow me to mature you to the point where I believe you're ready for this particular thing that I've placed on your heart to have. but let me prepare you for it. In chapter 30, verse 1, I want you to hear it again. Give me children or else I die is the wrong attitude. I am not God in verse 2, summing it up. I've been trying to give you children, and God has not allowed it. There's a reason for that. Verse 3, and she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, Bilhah, which is also her sister, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. Where have we heard this before? You heard it back with Abraham, when he was negotiating with, when Sarah was negotiating with Abraham, because she was barren. And she said the same thing, go unto my maiden, I forgot her name off the top, Ishmael's mom. Maybe I should look it up. And so this is not something that is new. Hagar. So navigating that relationship with Rachel, Jacob came into agreement with her. And I believe Rachel had motive to do this, but that's another story. I'm not going to get into that right now. Verse 4. Genesis chapter 30, verse 4. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaiden, also her sister. So you got Bilhah, Leah, and Rachel. And Jacob went in unto her, in verse 5, and Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again. And these are all sons of Jacob. Great wrestling, verse 8, Rachel said, great wrestlings, I have wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed, and she called his name Naphtali. But the sister she was wrestling with, in competition with, is Leah, or Leah, Leah. What is she wrestling for? She's turned it into a competition. There is no wrestling. However, the fruit of your womb at that time, or having children and giving sons, was a measure of success at that time. And maybe even still today. And I'm not getting as far as I want to get, so let me keep reading. When Leah, in verse 9, Genesis 30, verse 9, when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. So here's Jacob with now 4 wives. And he's rolling with it. He's cool. Because I want you to see how he's responding. He's not fighting them. Jacob, father of the 12 tribes, 4 wives, 2 handmaidens, 3 sisters. And Leah said, a troop comes, and she shall call his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, happy am I, For the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. These are the 12 tribes. And Reuben went in his days of the wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, A small matter that thou hast taken my husband, and wilt thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night, and God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob the 5th son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. What's so important about mandrakes? Why couldn't Rachel get her own mandrakes? Mandrakes have a medicinal purpose of fertility. Now, I've gone too long in this, so I can't keep going. But the bottom line is, after the purchase of the mandrakes, the negotiating between Leah and Rachel is Rachel became pregnant. However, the battle between those two relationships had to be navigated by Jacob, who kind of went along with the process. And I don't feel like I explained it correctly, but I think I'm going to boil it down to this. Jacob walked by faith and not by sight in dealing with his wives. He worked it out. He never caught an attitude. He worked it out with them. He allowed them to walk in their power. Some of you are fighting your spouses and boyfriends and girlfriends and just not allowing them just to walk in their power as though you're going to lose something. Jacob didn't have that attitude. But when it came to Laban, he took a different position. And we'll talk about that in video 80. If these videos are helpful to you, please like and share them with other people. I certainly appreciate it, and thank you. Thank you for taking this journey as we talk about the kingdom of God and usher in the kingdom of heaven.